So not only did Sensei kind of crack the code of what was going on with Nezuko and why she was sleeping for so long, so rather than eating human flesh, she was recovering her energy and strength by sleeping. But not only did he crack that code, he also did a little bit of brainwashing, a little hypnosis, so when she sees humans, she will view them as family. And any demon who tries to do harm on humans are the enemy, and she'll go on a rampage kicking all of the ass. If that isn't badass, a little messed up in its own right, but hey, when you got a demon for a sister now, maybe a little brainwashing is on the table, and that's fair game. I love that. I love how they're actually exploring Nezuko, because she is a character who can't talk, yet I feel like we're understanding her on a pretty deep level as a demon, as you sometimes will see things from her perspective, but also how the characters are recognizing how hard she is kind of clinging to her humanity so she doesn't fall victim into becoming a demonic monster that knows nothing but killing humans. Like, I really appreciate the detail they're going into her character and how these other characters are recognizing how far she's really pushing herself so she doesn't lose herself in her demonic ways. On top, the overall exposition to the show I think is really well done. I think there's only been a couple of small instances where I thought they kind of really ham-fisted information down our throats, but for the most part, when they're exploring the technicalities and just the mechanics to this demon hunter world, I feel as if we're learning about just what's going on the same way Tanjirou is. So as he's learning about the fabric that his uniform is made out of, learning that essentially it's really resistant to heat, it's very good at absorbing moisture, but also like fangs and just talons from demons generally won't be able to cut that fabric. So we're like learning about their uniforms, their weaponry, and things like that, but it doesn't feel like the anime is just shoving information down our throat. Technically it is, but it feels because Tanjiro is a character who has no connection to this world up until now. So he probably lived his entire life knowing nothing about the technicalities of how the demon hunters operate. So it feels as if, like, when he learns information, the viewer does too, so it almost feels like we're becoming a demon hunter alongside our main character, so it actually is really well done exposition, not to mention, like, even when they're trying to, like, explore, like, the sword mechanics and how, basically, the swords will kind of activate based on the person, they're starting to kind of explore, like, ooh, the black sword, maybe it's a little more, you know, mysterious in a good way, but then we learn that essentially anyone who gets a black sword doesn't actually get that far as being a demon hunter, which obviously Tanjiro is going to become a badass. He's already pretty much a badass in his own small right in this world, but obviously he'll be the exception. This black sword will probably become something pretty damn cool because he has the will and the reason to keep fighting. Even though he doesn't fit in this world, his sister is reason enough to push through, break all the walls and boundaries so he can become something special, and either his sword will probably evolve into something better, or he'll showcase what the black sword can actually do. And I appreciate how they're exploring just the smaller mechanics to this world, while also having some pretty heartwarming just scenes, because Sensei for him is pretty much a father in this case. You know, he's sending his son out to essentially become something in this world, but unlike with most parents sending their now adult children away, this is a man who could easily die on his journey, and I thought just even with very few words spoken, just a head nod and just kind of tapping him on the shoulders, it was an emotional goodbye, because for all we know, this could be the last goodbye they ever had. Either one of these characters with the lifestyle they're in could get killed by a demon tomorrow. So that's what I really like, is even in the middle of learning all about the demon hunter world, we're still getting some pretty emotional goodbyes, and even some Nezuko just kind of lurking underneath the blanket, which I really adore, as it's pretty adorable seeing a just demon girl who really could kill you in your sleep, but for whatever reason is really cute and adorable in this moment. And something I really like with Nezuko is how she has this box, right? And they basically made her a very lightweight box that's very durable, it's reinforced so she could travel. And even though I don't think she's scared to get into the box, it just feels so heartbreaking to know that this guy's sister has to travel around in a dark, gloomy box. Granted, she likes the dark because that doesn't burn her and kill her. It just feels so heartbreaking to see a character having to basically cage his sister as they travel. It's just something, just the small moments that really just sell this dynamic, and it makes it pretty heartbreaking, but when you see the end stages where she just like kicks open the door to kick some demon ass, it kind of makes it feel okay at the end of the day. With this week's episode, we are definitely seeing the heroes be born, not even just with our main character Tanjiro as well as Nezuko. And I really like this episode because the overall idea for the demon hunting kind of quest in this episode is pretty simple. Basically, every night a girl goes missing, and it seems like the criteria is if you're 16, that's basically like their prime prey because they taste good, apparently. And I like this because you're seeing some pretty brutal, just kind of flashbacks to what happened to this one guy. And I'm not sure if it was his sister, his lover or what it was, but essentially the girl he was with just vanished into thin air, and then the parents brutally kicked the shit out of him. Because, I mean, I understand why the raid. You had their daughter, and basically you say vanish into thin air. Of course it's going to piss you off. It doesn't excuse the actions, but you understand where the parents would be coming from. But it's kind of hard to see, because from our end, even before we really got to know this guy, it was pretty sad to see how brutally beat up he got, because we know demons were behind this, but we can also understand why normal civilians wouldn't believe someone could just kind of pick you up from thin air and you would never see them again. And then when you get the realization that the girl has been eaten, because they basically collect the kind of hairpins or accessories that they kind of have on them, because obviously demons, they don't want to choke on that, but they'd love to eat the overall body and bones to a human. It's just very brutal, and I think even though you'll have these kind of simpler moments with Nezuko being cute under the floor mat or something like that, it's still such a brutal world, and even though the intro episodes may not have really blended that comedy and serious all that well, you can really see the deeper we get into the episode count of Demon Slayer, the better it gets. It really does feel like a series that just continues to find its groove. Like, it had a pretty strong base to work off of around episode 3 and 4, but episodes 5 and 6, it just feels like the groove is getting better and better, and I can tell by the time I leave the show at episode 24, I'm gonna say, like, this was an incredible ride, because really I have no reason to doubt it's not gonna just continue to get better. The worst parts of the show were in the beginning, when it was still trying to blend the serious and comedic and the overall kind of shonen action battle style with that really shonen design comedy, and it just feels so perfect right now. Seeing a character who really isn't a hero by default, he's a family man, but seeing someone who's not being believed by anyone in this town, rumors going around that basically shit's going wrong, people are disappearing each night. We have a character who basically acts like a dog who will sniff the ground, and it looks a little funny, but then when you see the demon scent in the trails and the way they're detailing the trails, I thought is really cool, because it makes it feel not as silly and just goofy when we see our character bending over to sniff the ground, but then we'll see the actual demonic aura kind of lingering. It makes it feel both a little bit silly, but also pretty damn badass in its own right. And seeing someone who normally wouldn't be this heroic hero actually rise to the occasion and just work hour after hour, when most people would say, okay, let's pick it back up in the morning. He's continuing his quest because this man needs answers of what happened, not to mention demons like to roam in the nighttime, so of course he's going to continue to help this man. And once again, we're seeing even more water techniques, which were just incredible. I love how instead of just having a character do some badass kind of spins in the air, we're getting like to see like this water technique to make it feel even more flashy and just really eye-gripping. And I love it because there's so many ways they can play around with even just the water style, and this is only one of the techniques he knows, and it just is so interesting seeing a waterfall come down or seeing a pinwheel attack. It just looks so incredible. And the acrobatics to this show is something I really appreciate, because even though we're in a world with demons and these kind of like supernatural demon hunters who have like extra abilities that most humans don't have, it doesn't change the fact that most of the acrobatics that our main character does, like the way he bounces off of walls, the way he flips in midair, it feels realistic. Someone who's trained for a long time and has kind of mastered the arts that is a demon hunter, at least at the basic enough level that he can do these cool things. He's super fast, the way he's jumping onto these buildings. Of course, there is a supernatural twist to it, but it still feels grounded enough to reality that I feel like I can see a character doing this if they did have a little bit extra juice than most humans, and I appreciate that. The way they detail the water techniques, the way they detail just basic acrobatics, I really dig how they're fighting demons, and this is such a different fight than what we first saw when he was first trying to kill a demon with a hatchet and it just wasn't going too well. And seeing where he is after episode 6, this is where I would expect to see a character to his nature in episode 8 or 9, and that's only a few episode difference, but it can really change the tone and pace of a series. Having time for him to just be able to walk and travel to his next destination, take the time for random civilians, not focusing on his main task at hand of finding the person the original demon who could give him answers and potentially save his sister. I appreciate that there is so many ways to explore this story and not rush it and just make it feel like it has a really steady and really satisfying pace. You can have emotional closure with your sensei, you can have time traveling the road, you can have silly comedic scenes, and you can help random strangers where no one is believing their story, but you know demons are real, and you can tell what can happen to a family if demons are left unchecked. I appreciate that, and I just adore just seeing more and more of Nezuko and as well as Tanjirou's relationship flourish, because even though she can't talk, even though she's muzzled, it feels like we're learning more about the humanity that still resides in her soul, and the fact that she can be this badass warrior, especially at night, and the fact that demons for the most part are going to be at nighttime. We're going to see a tag team duo, and demons are going to be confused as hell, because why is a human and a demon working together, and why is she ignoring humans and only going after us? If only they knew what Sensei was doing behind the scenes, brainwashing her so she can be a valuable asset for our main character. This is incredible, and I love how it just keeps getting better. The groove is continuing to be set, and I like how this is a show that even if you had issues with the early stages, and I had a couple myself, it feels like those are completely out the window, and this is what we should expect going forward in Demon Slayer in the coming episodes, and I'm so thankful that this isn't a one-core and done show, this is a two-core. The OST continues to be amazing, especially in the creepy scenes with demons kind of lurking underneath the bed. The way they're exploring how different demons can act if they have these extra abilities, how they can like morph into the ground, split themselves apart, and have different personalities for each of them even though they are the same person. There's so many things to explore, not even just with the demons and their overall mechanics and power systems, but also the demon hunters themselves. We're already probably impressed by Tanjiro and his badassery in this episode, and he's like the lowest level of demon hunter, and just imagining what some of these fights are going to look like as Tanjiro gets better, masters different techniques, but meets other demon hunters, it is going to be incredible, and I'm just so invested in this story at this point. It just keeps getting better, and if it continues on this path, I can understand why so many people would call this anime of the season, because it's really incredible. But for everyone who did watch, manga readers, anime originals like myself, what did you think of this week's episode of Demon Slayer? Let me know down in the comment section below, and if you did enjoy, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you happen to be new around here. So until next time, everyone, please take care and have a good one.